is guilty, to punish he who has sinned. These things I do in the name of the most holy God Emperor of mankind, and I do them gladly. From the missive to the damned. An Inquisitor is a clandestine agent and one of the highest ranking members of the Holy Ordos of the Emperor's Inquisition. Inquisitors serve as the secret police and intelligence agents of the Imperium, and their authority is theoretically second only to that of the Emperor himself. They are driven by an ancient order of the Emperor of mankind to ensure the security of the Imperium of Man from the taints of chaos. The demonic threats of the warp, internal dissension, and the dangers presented to mankind by intelligent alien species like the Orcs, the Tyranids, the Eldari, the Necrons, and the Tau. Split into three main orders, or Ordo Majoris, the Ordo Xenos, the Alien Hunters, the Ordo Malleus, the Demon Hunters, and the Ordo Hereticus, the Witch Hunters, as well as many smaller, more specialized orders called the Ordos Minores. The Inquisition is ruthless in uncovering and snuffing out chaos, corruption, heresy, and mutation wherever they may be found among the million worlds of humanity. Although many Inquisitors consider themselves answerable only to the High Lords of Terra and the Emperor himself, in reality there exists a class of high-echelon Imperial servants to which Inquisitors belong, who all wield more or less the same levels of de facto political influence. Such worthies include Imperial planetary governors and sector lords, Astra Militarum generals, Space Marine chapter masters, Ecclesiarchy cardinals, rogue traders, Adeptus Mechanicus Archmagi, Navis Imperialis Lord Admirals, Adeptus Arbiters judges, and the sector-level representatives of the Adeptus Administratum. Relations between these various groups are often seething with internecine rivalry and bitterness, and even within one grouping, deadly wars may be fought to gain influence and leverage. Imperial commanders, for example, quite frequently engage in bitter and bloody territorial clashes between each other's fiefs, and the Inquisition is far from immune to internal strife. Yet, the relentless and deadly agents of the Inquisition have infiltrated every facet of human society to ensure that chaos never again take root in the Imperium, and that no alien race will replace humanity as the dominant, intelligent species of the galaxy. The weightiest of burdens, of the uncounted trillions that constitute the multitudes of humanity, only those marked out by the grace of the Emperor himself are judged worthy. The common man rarely achieves more than he is born into, yet an Inquisitor rises far above the circumstance of their birth, being singled out amongst billions for a fate few can ever dream of. Inquisitors enjoy one of the most privileged of stations in the entire human-settled galaxy, yet they are far from a master of their own fate. Their life is instead bound up in duty and responsibility. For many, the station is a curse, a cross to bear for the sake of the Emperor and the very future of humanity. In fact, there are those within the Ordos Calixis of the Calixis sector, for example, willing to sacrifice their eternal souls for the sake of all mankind, such as the Oblationists, who give themselves onto chaos that they might become a weapon against it. For many Inquisitors, life is a series of terrible revelations as more and more horrifying truths are uncovered. Upon their ascension from service as an interrogator, to their mentor, to the rank and responsibilities of a full Inquisitor, the individual may well discover that all they thought they knew was, in fact, a lie. Although the shock of such a revelation is great, the individual would not have been chosen to bear the seal of the Inquisition had they not been judged able to withstand it by their superiors. Even more shockingly, this state of affairs is likely to continue throughout an Inquisitor's career, so that one after another supposedly fundamental truths are proved false. Many do eventually go mad, unable to sustain the relentless assault upon their very sanity. These must be hunted down by their peers, lest they turn renegade and seek to destroy everything for which the Inquisition stands. Despite the fact that all Inquisitors share the same mission and bear the same burden, they are as varied in demeanor, character, and appearance as the worlds from which they are drawn. Some are aesthetic and withdrawn, disdaining comfort as an example to their underlings and foes of the sacrifices made by the Emperor for the sake of humanity. Others attire themselves in regal finery, the better to cow and impress those they move amongst. Some are outwardly pious, while others might appear irreligious to the ignorant. Some are militaristic, while others move silently in the shadows or conduct investigations from light years away. I will now name some examples of the many and varied personality types to be found amongst the ranks of the Inquisition. First we have the militant. There are those who bear the inquisitorial rosette who believe above all else that the only way to combat the enemies of the Imperium is to burn, blast, and scour them all, wherever they may be found. Such individuals frequently extend their opinion to the wider populace, such that an entire city might be blasted from orbit simply to eradicate a mutant enclave sheltering in its sewers, or an entire orbital K should be sent plummeting to the Earth because a dozen voidsmen shared the same portentous nightmare. Militant Inquisitors tend to shoot first and ask questions later. Many do the shooting themselves, being as adept with blade and bolter as any veteran Imperial Guardsman. Militant Inquisitors tend to employ cadres of men and women with a similar demeanor, commonly packing as much firepower as a Space Marine Devastator squad. They may have built up large cadres of Imperial Guardsmen, retaining their services for life as a permanent unit, often with its own uniform. These Inquisitors lead assaults on enemy strongholds from the very front, glorying in the act of slaughtering the Emperor's foes, and equip themselves with the very finest of artificer-crafted weapons, armor, and other equipment. Many acquire war gear of ancient and well-established pedigree, while some employ weapons of unique, unknown, or even xenos manufacture. Conversely, some Inquisitors of a militant mindset are akin to Lords General, studying strategic maps or poring over logistical inventories. They take command of friendly Imperial forces, supervising missions from afar through Vox Link and gun cam. They time their assaults with lethal precision and order the deployment of their weapons, whether Death Cult Assassin or Orbital Bombardment, as an extension of their own body. Some of these Inquisitors attain the highest of ranks, eventually leading not just small cadres of warrior agents, but entire armies, even Imperial Crusades. The line between General and Inquisitor may become blurred, for a time at least. Of course, it may come to pass that such an individual's erstwhile peers come to resent or disapprove of their position, and an entirely new conflict is initiated. Next we have the Investigator. An Inquisitor must have a mind as keen as a power stiletto, and a heart as cold as the death cultist who wields it. For many, it is in the tracking down of their foe, the sifting of evidence, and the uncovering of long-dormant secrets that their calling finds its true expression. These are the arch-investigators, individuals who can smell a dirty secret from half a sector away. From the scantest of clues, they have the uncanny ability to hunt down the culpable and bring the criminal to justice. Inquisitors of an investigative nature surround themselves with sages and adepts. They often employ a vast network of specialists from across the many organizations of the Imperium as acolytes, and are gifted with the ability to draw upon the unique skills of all those in their employ, bringing together the disparate strands of an investigation and acting upon the truth as it is revealed. The appearance of such an Inquisitor is often a portent of a ruthlessly thorough process, and strikes such fear into the hearts of the guilty that they often flee, revealing their guilt even before an accusation is made. The investigative Inquisitor may also rely on a number of guards, often Crusaders, for they may eschew the martial skills displayed by others of their kind. Nonetheless, even the most stooped and aged of Inquisitors have a few tricks up their sleeves, save for the moment they must deliver the harsh judgment of the Inquisition in person, their foe at bay with nowhere to flee. Web of contacts and agents imaginable, each of whom they control with masterly skill, as a puppeteer controlling 1,000 marionettes with but a single hand. The identity of the Machinator is often withheld from those they control, their missives and instructions passed to them by encrypted, untraceable transmission conduits, or delivered by way of a dead letter drop. Indeed, the Machinator's agents may have well met their master face to face without ever having known of it. The Machinator is a political animal of the highest caliber. They invariably involve themselves as much with the convoluted power struggles within the Inquisition as they do with the broiling heresies of the greater Imperium. In all likelihood, they have many enemies in both camps, and even their fellow Inquisitors may not have met them in person for many solar decades, so mindful must they be of their rivals' petty hatreds. Such Inquisitors plot and scheme to maneuver their foes into positions of weakness, slowly infiltrating agents into enemy organizations. Evidence of guilt is gathered, but that is merely the opening phase in the Machinator's scheme. Next, they work tirelessly to seed weaknesses in their enemy's power base, compromising systems, assassinating allies and servants, and infiltrating defenses. Yet even they must take to the field when their enemies rise. That is why they gather about them a cadre of the most trusted of their agents, those they trust above all others not to betray them. And through the smoke and rubble appears the form of the Machinator. Inquisitorial rosette brandished in one hand, bold pistol raised in the other. There are many Inquisitors within the Ordo Calixis who may be described in these terms. The greatest is perhaps Inquisitor Silas Marr, who appears to many to be seated at the vast spider's web of conspiracy and power. Those who intrude upon his business are often warned off, in the first instance at least, though rarely by Marr in person. Those too arrogant or ignorant to heed such a warning make themselves a powerful enemy. Many other times an Inquisitor has followed a lead only to find it leading back to some concern of Marr's and been forced to drop the matter lest they make a foe of this powerful individual. To what end Silas Marr intends to put his vast network, none can say, or would dare to openly speculate. Next we have the Bombast. Inquisitors are men and women of unshakable faith in the God Emperor, yet some are so consumed by their faith that they wield it as a weapon in and of itself. These firebrands often blur the line between preacher and inquisitor, many attiring themselves in robes akin to those worn by the highest officers of the Adeptus Ministerum. A bombast inquisitor is quick to anger and even quicker to denounce. They see heresy and sin wherever they look, and are quick to throw those they judge guilty to the pyres of justice. Such inquisitors recite a constant stream of holy invective, quoting passages from the holy texts and invoking the names of saints and martyrs of the Emperor with every breath. They are exceptionally intimidating, invoking quivering fear in the unfaithful and utter horror in the heretic. The cadres of these types of inquisitors often include all manner of hierophants, exorcists and confessors. Their links to the ecclesiarchy may, in addition, result in them being accompanied by one or more Sisters of Battle of the Adepta Sororitas, potent and zealous warriors indeed, with a fearsome reputation amongst the enemies of the imperial cult. Bombasts are unsubtle individuals, with a tendency to ignore the minutiae of an investigation. This often brings them into conflict with others of the Inquisition. The arrival on a world of a bombastic inquisitor might ruin standard years of work by a subtler agent. Yet sometimes covert inquisitors follow in the bombast's wake, often without their knowledge, watching to see whether any previously unknown enemies attempt to flee, otherwise reveal their hands. Despite a blunt approach to the calling of the Inquisitor, the Bombast is amongst the boldest of all the servants of the Holy Ordos of the Emperor's Inquisition. They have been known to face the most terrifying of enemies, armed with little more than the word of the Emperor, and prevail. The deeds and words of such an individual can rally an entire population to cast off a renegade planetary governor, or to take up arms against an overwhelmingly powerful alien invasion. They often lead from the very front of the armies of the faithful, imbued with a burning faith in the God Emperor of mankind, so fierce that it kindles similar zealousness in the hearts of all who witness it. Next, the Judicar. The Judicar Inquisitor is an individual who approaches their calling in almost the exact opposite manner to the investigator. They assume guilt and demand evidence to the contrary, being the prosecutor, judge, and often executioner. Such individuals rarely accept any evidence placed before them that contradicts their charge. Such inquisitors normally travel about from world to world with great ceremony, surrounding themselves with an entire traveling court of clerks, attendants, and flunkies. Upon arrival, They announce a court of assize, often commandeering the most awe-inspiring of locations for their purposes. Charges against certain individuals are then posted, and the accused brought before the court. Only those of the highest rank have any hope of refuting the charges, but in all likelihood, these would not have been charged in the first place. Volume after volume of case law is produced and added to during the trial. The judicar often ensures that the proceedings of their court are entered into the rolls of the planet's own laws, enshrining their every word into law for generations to come. Some such individuals maintain entire armies of seconded arbitrators, imposing their own law upon those forced to suffer their visitations. When such itinerant precincts arrive upon the world, no one is immune from the smashing in of doors in the middle of the night, constant searches, and the spontaneous imposition of totalitarian laws. Entire worlds have burned at the command of such inquisitors, and their names often live on for many standard centuries as the subject of cautionary tales to strike fear into the hearts of the multitudes. And the final one, the Idealist. Upon being granted the inquisitorial rosette, many inquisitors are at a stage in their lives when they still harbor a faint hope that mankind can redeem itself of its sinful ways and turn back the tide of darkness that threatens to engulf the entire galaxy. Most are soon disabused of this notion by bitter experience or an untimely death. Idealists often gravitate towards the various Puritan schools of thought concerning the Inquisition's role, although in time some find themselves traveling a very different path. Idealists seek out that in the spirit of mankind which is worth saving, but in so doing often find themselves renouncing that which falls below their exacting standards. They embark upon personal crusades to exact vengeance upon the criminal and the heretic, and often seek to rally others to their cause. Sadly, many find themselves estranged from their peers, many of whom have simply seen it all before, and cut off from aid when they need it most. Many of the older, more embittered inquisitors of the Ordos Calixis have been observed to take great delight in watching such young firebrands come to ruin. Some may even have engineered such a situation, only to offer the hand of friendship which the individual has no choice but to accept. And then the young idealist might find themselves in the thrall of a far more powerful master, whose philosophies and factional leanings might be entirely at odds with their own. Despite the obvious pitfalls faced by such inquisitors, every now and then, one of their kind does achieve true greatness. Some even attain sainthood, so genuinely pure and good are their intentions. A galaxy as corrupt and barbaric as that of the 41st millennium, the lives and deeds of such individuals are often little more than a brief spark of light amidst a looming, all-encompassing Stygian night. Yet some make their stand against the forces of darkness and make a difference, no matter how slight, in the battle for the very survival of humanity. The Inquisition tends to be a surprisingly flat organization once one reaches the rank of a full Inquisitor, as the only check on one's authority tends to be another one, or a group of them acting in concert as an organization called a conclave. However, within the conclaves of the Inquisition, which are usually organized to include the Inquisitors of every ordo operating in a given sector or sub-sector of the Imperium, there is some differentiation based on functional roles and the need for basic forms of administration. Though such titles are more often seen by other Inquisitors as designating their bearer more of a first among equals rather than an outright superior within a strict hierarchy. This egalitarian attitude does not apply, however, to the acolytes within any given Inquisitor's retinue. The first rank is the Inquisitorial Representative, also known as the Inquisitor Lord Tyran. The Inquisitorial Representative is the voice of the Inquisition on the Senatorum Imperialis of the High Lords of Terra, the governing body of the Imperium. Although the role does not bring any additional authority above that held by any other Inquisitor Lord, it does put the bearer of the title in a position of unrivaled authority due to the influence they can bring to bear at the highest levels of Imperial power. The Inquisitorial Representative is nominated from amongst the Inquisitor Lords of the conclaves active in the sectors surrounding Terra, and Inquisitors that have previously filled this role for a term of service are thereafter referred to as an Inquisitor Lord Tyran. It is not unusual for several Inquisitor Lords Tyran to share the role of Inquisitorial Representative at the same time. The maximum term that Inquisitor Lord Tyran can serve on the Senatorum Imperialis is 5 standard years, after which they must stand down to make room for a new one. Then we have the Grand Master. The title of Grand Master is sometimes granted to the Inquisitor Lord who leads a sector or sub-sector conclave of the Inquisition. They essentially are viewed by outside Imperial organizations as the inquisitorial authority for a specific sector or sub-sector of Imperial space. Then the Master. Where one of the Inquisition's ordos has a strong presence in a sector or sub-sector, the senior Inquisitor Lord of each ordo may be given the title of Master in their respective conclave. Their role is to oversee and guide the activities of the members of their ordo active in the region and provide counsel to the conclave's Grand Master. Upon the death of a conclave's Grand Master, a successor is chosen by secret ballot between the 3 existing Ordo Masters of the conclave. Then the most famous one, the Inquisitor Lord, also known as Lord Inquisitors or High Inquisitors. Inquisitor Lords exist to help maintain the integrity of the organization and to watch over and guide its members. The title is granted by the Inquisitor Lord's fellows in their conclave as recognition of an Inquisitor's power, influence, and seniority within the organization rather than an absolute rank, and is more a formalization of a position enjoyed by the Inquisitor rather than an actual promotion. Promotion to the ranks of the Inquisitor Lords is by invitation only. An Inquisitor must be nominated by an existing Inquisitor Lord and have their nomination approved by 2 others. It is an honor that is only extended to those that have proven their courage, ability, loyalty, and integrity numerous times. Although the title of Inquisitor Lord in itself brings no further temporal authority than that already held by a full Inquisitor, it is likely that such a respected and influential Inquisitor will have some measure of control over resources within the Inquisition or their chosen ordo, and that control of those resources will give them some measure of authority over those other Inquisitors who wish to use them. For example, A Lord Inquisitor may oversee the activities of all Inquisitors operating in the area of the Imperium covered by a regional or sectoral conclave, or they may orchestrate and monitor the activities of Inquisitors who are part of an Ordo or the smaller group of allied Inquisitors and their retinues known as a Cabal. And then, the Inquisitor, or the Ordinary Inquisitor. The Ordinary Inquisitor is the official title of the vast majority of all Inquisitors, with all the nearly unlimited political, investigative, and military power it conveys. Inquisitors are truly exceptional individuals, standing alongside, often above, the most influential and powerful of the Imperium's servants. But few operate alone, for the galaxy is too perilous a war zone for a single man or woman, even one of their standing, to face without allies. Throughout their career, Inquisitors will form their own cadre of agents of various roles and functions in order to achieve whatever goal is put before them. These agents fall into two classes, known as Acolytes and Throne Agents. Acolytes are initiates into the Inquisition service, who may eventually become Inquisitors themselves one day if they perform well and please their master. Throne Agents are mature acolytes who have served the Inquisition and a particular Inquisitor for standard years, and sometimes solar decades, and are considered full members of the organization. They are amongst the most powerful beings in the Imperium of Man, after an Inquisitor. Some of these agents are common tools used throughout the Imperium, including priests of the Ecclesiarchy, astropaths, servitors, tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, etc. Others may be more subtle, and even serve a more specific role, such as high-ranking members of the Administratum, the apprentice Inquisitors called Interrogators, elite members of the Astra Militarum like Stormtroopers or the Adeptus Arbiters Judges, and the highly trained assassins of the Officio Assassinorum's 4 temples or various imperial death cults. Any member of any organization within the Imperium that can help in achieving an Inquisitor's objective will likely serve a purpose for the Inquisition at one point or another. Some may be used briefly for special tasks or one-shot missions, while others may serve alongside the Inquisitor for the duration of their career. Over time, older, more experienced Inquisitors will have built an extensive network of spies and agents that make seeking out and destroying threats to the Imperium all the easier. The number and type of allies an Inquisitor surrounds themselves with depends on many factors. Perhaps the greatest one is the mission the cadre must perform. A mission involving infiltration and fact-finding requires a different range of skills than one where combat is anticipated. Thus, some cadres are made up of warriors and assassins, while others feature tech adepts and sages. There are, however, some Inquisitors who, for whatever reason, have less choice in their allies. Perhaps a newly ascended one has only a small pool of allies in which to draw, or one of a more radical bent has, by way of their metaphysical viewpoint, fewer willing to aid them. Many Inquisitors favor a small, permanent group of highly trusted allies with a balanced range of skills, while others maintain a large pool of retainers, selecting the most appropriate on a mission-by-mission basis. Although the Inquisitor is the leader of the cadre, its members are often every bit as important to a mission's success or failure. An effective cadre is a tight-knit group, each member able to anticipate the thoughts and deeds of the others. Inquisitors rarely find themselves with a surplus of what they might consider friends among the Inquisition, for Inquisitors often end up in opposition to one another. However, within their cadre of acolytes, they may form relationships, even friendships, not possible otherwise. Ultimately, the cadre belongs to the Inquisitor rather to the Inquisition. Its enemies are their cadre's enemies, meaning the fates of all involved are entwined for all time. Furthermore, most Inquisitors gather individuals with a similar philosophical outlook to their own. Should one's factional leanings cause them to be denounced by their fellows, the same fate befalls all of their allies in their cadre. Thus, the cadre is bound together by a common cause. The tragedy is that many cadres fall apart if the Inquisitor loses their life in the execution of their duty, often finding themselves severed from the greater institution of the Inquisition. The fortunate are able to call upon other Inquisitors known to be allies of their erstwhile master, perhaps becoming part of a new cadre of acolytes, but for others, a far darker end awaits. With long service within an Inquisitor's retinue, an acolyte may rise up through multiple ranks, serving multiple purposes for their patron Inquisitor, and ultimately perhaps even rising high enough to be considered for Inquisitor status themselves. I will now explain the most common ranks handed out to the acolytes of the Inquisition, from the lowest to the highest. First, the acolyte, of course. Acolytes are the chosen servants, agents, and aides of an Inquisitor. Though not of the rank of Inquisitors, they are nonetheless considered full agents of the Inquisition, and can be delegated some of the authority of their patron. However, some acolytes are chosen simply to serve as cannon fodder by more ruthless Inquisitors to deal with a specific problem, such as those selected to combat the dark tide of chaos threatening Hive Tertium on the Mobian domain hive world of Atomar Prime, who are nicknamed Rejects by the Ordo Hereticus. Those who survive their original purpose may continue on in their patron's retinue, eventually rising to gain more power and responsibility, perhaps even eventually becoming Inquisitors in training themselves. Next, the proven acolyte. After a cell of recently selected acolytes has completed several successful missions for their patron, they are inducted more fully into the workings of the Inquisition, and can operate more independently of their patron's direct supervision. Then, the trusted acolyte. A trusted acolyte is one who is often given positions of responsibility by their patron, such as running an Inquisitor's facilities while they are away, or operating in long-term undercover operations. A trusted acolyte is someone the Inquisitor now trusts to be loyal and competent, and may one day be considered for promotion to Throne Agent or even Explicator. Then, of course, the Throne Agent. The Throne Agents are the most trusted members of an Inquisitor's retinue, and are drawn from many different backgrounds, often from the Adeptus Arbites or one of the other Imperial Adepta, including the various Imperial military services. Throne Agents have ascended to join the ranks of the Inquisition itself, and now possess both political power and responsibility accordingly. They are not true Inquisitors, but are recognized as bearers of the organization's authority wherever they go. They often act independently of their Inquisitor, while still carrying their full authority and possess an inquisitorial rosette of their own. Then, the Prime. Prime is the title given to the acolyte who has been selected by their patron to serve as the commander of a given warband or retinue. Then, the Legate Investigator. Some Ordos, such as the Ordos Calixis in the Calixis sector, make use of acolytes such as those drawn from the Adeptus Arbites, gifted with a formal charter of inquiry and a sigil of question, granting them the formal authority of the Inquisition for the duration of a particular investigation, essentially making them temporary inquisitors for the span of a single mission. Then, the Explicator. An Explicator is an acolyte who has been marked out by their patron as competent and loyal enough to be treated and tested as a potential inquisitor in training. They learn how to extract information from subjects using physical and mental torture techniques under the direction of their mentor inquisitor, hence their title. Next, the Interrogator. Achieving the rank of Interrogator represents the second stage of achievement for an acolyte who is considered by their patron to be a future inquisitor in training. Interrogators are both capable and strong, and possess a tremendous will to survive battle alongside their mentors. Some never rise to the rank of High Interrogator and instead simply move on when they are deemed ready by their patron to become a full Inquisitor. Interrogators often possess an inquisitorial rosette of their own, though it lacks the full powers and ability to unlock certain highly classified archives of information that a true Inquisitor's rosette allows. And the most powerful one, the High Interrogator. A High Interrogator is the senior-most rank of Interrogator, an individual who is among the most trusted agents and servants of their patron, but still short of full inquisitorial status themselves. High Interrogators are very likely to eventually rise to become full Inquisitors themselves within a short time of achieving this rank. As acolytes, best serving the Inquisition meant following orders, no matter how difficult to understand or achieve, accepting any challenge, no matter how dangerous or deadly, and acknowledging that any true understanding of the machinations the acolytes are involved in may never be reached. However, upon ascension to the ranks of the Inquisition itself as senior trusted acolytes, better known as throne agents, all of that changes, utterly and forever. Acolytes no longer, these individuals have ascended to join the ranks of the most trusted and powerful extensions of the Emperor's will. They are now throne agents, and they form the retinue, also known as a cadre, of an Inquisitor, and sometimes eventually become Inquisitors themselves. The role expected of a throne agent is complex, but at its core, it revolves around the concepts of power, responsibility, and scale. Throne agents possess many resources that mere acolytes do not, ranging from the nearly limitless authority of the inquisitorial rosette to the blend of sophisticated technology and lethal skills of the Vindicator assassin. In addition, more is expected from a throne agent than from an acolyte. The level of responsibility grows, and the risks of failure increase commensurate with the threats throne agents routinely confront. For most, it is not enough to simply uncover a conspiracy or locate the core of a heretical cult. Instead, throne agents are often solely responsible for completely rooting out the conspiracy, or are charged with the utter and complete destruction of every cult cell within a star system. Throne agents also work on a completely different scale than acolytes. The affairs of an Inquisitor move in a very dangerous and complicated game played by the various factions and orders of the Inquisition itself. To serve as, or directly with, an Inquisitor is to place oneself squarely as one of the foremost pieces on the game board, and there are many, both within the Inquisition and without, who seek to use the Throne Agents to their own ends. No longer is it enough to merely confront the enemies of mankind. Throne Agents must also watch their back and prepare to defend against the machinations of their allies. I am minded to raise you to the position that you have craved and dreamt of for so long. I am, though, reticent. My friend, you are the finest apprentice I have ever tutored, and there is no one I would trust more between here and the Golden Throne. Because of this, I am loath to place the burden of our high office on you. Its glitter is a lie, and its rewards no more than the dry ash of a funeral pyre. From Inquisitor Whitlock to Inquisitor Sidan before he was raised to the rank of Inquisitor. Potential Inquisitors are often drawn from the progena, the graduates of the Schola Progenium, who show the most promise in intellectual, psychic areas prized by the investigative arms of the Inquisition. As is the case with all aspects of the Inquisition, the matter of recruitment is not a centralized process, but the power to recruit is left in the hands of the individual Inquisitors. Some are known to not recruit at all and instead spend their years of service in pursuit of their enemies, as well as dedicating their hours to duty for the rest of their lives. Others, however, feel that it is one of their many burdens to bring about the next generation of Inquisitors who are destined to carry forth the battle that the Inquisition must wage on behalf of humanity. Ultimately, the matter is left to the judgment of the individual Inquisitors, who are subject only to the scrutiny of their peers, as is the case in most matters. A majority of them typically leave such matters to chance or perhaps to fate in regards to picking a suitable candidate from amongst the groups of individuals whose paths cross that of the Inquisition. There are a number of them who are more rigorous in regard to the pursuit of acolytes, and will spend a proportion of their time seeking suitable candidates, often from the ranks of other Imperial Adepta. There exists no set criteria in regards to physical condition for a possible candidate when being selected to join the ranks. All that is required is proof of intelligence and loyalty to the Emperor of Mankind, which are key requisites for such a choice. There is no proper method of judging these attributes until later in life. However, there may exist an extraordinary circumstance which leads to an Inquisitor choosing a boy or girl whilst they are still within their teens, if the subject shows exceptional ability. Generally, an Inquisitor will take note of an individual if they are a free-thinking person with great willpower and determination, as well as unflinching principles. If a suitable candidate is found, they will become part of the Inquisitor's retinue as an acolyte, where they may serve in a minor capacity whilst the Inquisitor continues their evaluation. Those that later prove their worth whilst working with the Inquisitor can be taken into the greater confidence of their master. Over the standard years of his or her service, the Acolyte will begin to learn what they can of the Inquisitor's knowledge and their many duties. Certain Inquisitors often refer to these apprentices as interrogators, though they are also known as novitiates, neophytes, explicators, and approbators. At this stage, the individuals can undertake missions of their own or control operations in concert with their master or mistress, though ultimately they are still subordinate to them until the Inquisitor agrees with several of his peers that one of his acolytes is ready for the responsibilities that come with being a full Inquisitor. In normal conditions, the consent of 3 Inquisitors or a single Inquisitor Lord is needed to bestow the full powers of an Inquisitor on an acolyte, as well as grant him or her the full rosette of the Inquisition. There have, however, been rare occasions which warranted an acolyte taking on full inquisitorial powers immediately. This is likely the case when the Inquisitor in charge has been killed during an ongoing operation, which requires the acolyte to immediately inherit their master's or mistress's position. Acolytes may pass from one patron to another as fate dictates, and through this way the ideals of the Inquisition are passed on. This, in turn, allows the various competing factions and institutions of the Inquisition to propagate across the centuries. In addition to his master's or mistress's personal philosophy on the duties of the Inquisition, the acolyte also learns what their teacher knows of the internal Byzantine political workings of the Inquisition itself. However, such knowledge cannot be freely given, and it cannot be taken without effort, as that would devalue the knowledge itself. This goes in line with the inquisitorial saying, "Knowledge is power, guard it well." All Inquisitors begin as acolytes, apprentice Inquisitors given over to the tutelage of a full member of the Inquisition. They accompany a fully experienced Inquisitor in his inquisitorial duties. He may perform a number of tasks for his superior, including serving as warrior, scribe, and interrogator. After a set amount of time, his master will provide a recommendation on his behalf to one of the Ordos of the Inquisition to advance his pupil to full rank. After this recommendation is accepted, the acolyte is raised to the full rank and can initiate his own agenda and operations. Although the new Inquisitor is no longer bound to his old master, they will have formed a personal bond and may work together and help one another in the future. As an institution, the Inquisition employs relatively few staff, especially compared to the vast bureaucracy that is the Administratum. Instead, most of the Inquisition's endeavors are carried out by individual Inquisitors, or by groupings of such and their retinues of acolytes. Over time, some of these groupings become more or less formalized, establishing their own traditions and spheres of influence, and while some members move on, others join. Even where very formalized and well-established inquisitorial bodies exist, such as the Ordos Calixis of the Calixis sector, it is important to remember that these are not controlled by some central body, but by the will of their own members. In the main, Inquisitors rely not on large groups of functionaries and staff to carry out their mission, but upon their own devices. Although groups like the Ordos Calixis do maintain significant numbers of support staff, most Inquisitors look to their own tried and trusted allies to accomplish any given task. While plenty of them work alone and unencumbered, others gather their own personal households. Throughout his career, an Inquisitor is likely to amass a great wealth of personal assets. There is little they cannot requisition by dint of their position, from sidearms to starships. Wealth is a petty triviality to an Inquisitor, and currency irrelevant to them. Others handle such things on their behalf. Given the nature of the factional infighting that besets the Inquisition, much of an Inquisitor's assets are kept secret, sometimes even from his closest allies, lest they become a target for his rivals. It is common for Inquisitors operating in a defined locality to establish permanent holdings, bases of operation to which they can return for rest and recuperation. While most maintain a residence in one of the inquisitorial fortresses, such as the Tricorn Palace on Scintilla, few would rely on the security of such places should they come into conflict with a rival. Instead, an Inquisitor employs a network of agents to purchase for him what facilities he feels he needs, from run-down hive shanties to the most luxurious of spiremancies. Such holdings may be attended by a permanent staff, often unaware of the true nature of their duties. Many safe houses are maintained for decades or even centuries at a time, attended by several generations of house serfs, only to be used once, when most needed, as a place of refuge. Then, the safe house may be forgotten, its existence compromised, its security and secrecy never to be relied upon again. Some Inquisitors maintain stockpiles of weaponry and other equipment, some held in gene-locked stasis vaults, others buried out in the wilderness. Should the Inquisitor come into possession of tainted artifacts, such as demon weapons or xenos tech, he may decide to secret them away, far from the judgmental eyes of his peers, lest they be used as evidence for some imagined heresy. In addition to such holdings, many maintain an entire household of staff and retainers. Those of a more martial standing may amass a small private army of troopers drawn from the ranks of the Astra Militarum and other arms of the Imperium's sprawling military machine. An Inquisitor who requisitions the services of a Tempestus Scion's platoon is unlikely to feel any compulsion to return the troops to their former command when his immediate need for them has passed. Many hold on to such warriors, marshal for future deployment. Such forces may in time develop their own traditions and histories, and wear with pride the heraldry of their master. The Inquisitor's untold powers allow the force to be equipped with such weapons and war gear as would be unobtainable to a conventional line unit, making them the envy of their former colleagues when their paths occasionally cross. As the most important arm of the Imperial government dedicated to ensuring the security of the Imperium of Man, the authority of the Inquisition technically supersedes all others, including, in theory, a High Lord of Terra or even a chapter master of the Adeptus Astartes. Thus, Inquisitors have access to an almost limitless variety of Imperial resources that allow them to act in full strength against any threats they perceive to the Emperor's domain. Despite this comprehensive legal authority, experienced Inquisitors seeking the assistance of the Space Marines or the knowledge and resources of an Archmagos of the Adeptus Mechanicus have learned to act with discretion towards such powerful Adeptar of the Imperium. Uniquely, Inquisitors have been known to use a wide variety of artifacts and war gear throughout their careers as a result of such heavy interaction with the other Adeptar of the Imperium, and even xenos cultures. Despite their seemingly powerful capabilities, even the Inquisition may not be able to fight back a rampant and well-rooted infection of chaos or unusually powerful xenos force like a Tyranid hive fleet. On worlds where such infections have been discovered, an Inquisitor may condemn the planet to exterminatus, the ultimate Imperial sanction which is granted only to an Inquisitor or Space Marine officer to unleash upon a world. To truly understand chaos is to be consumed by it, and such dealings with the horrors of the warp often require a near heretical interaction with the forces of chaos by a given Inquisitor, especially among the members of the Ordo Malleus and the Ordo Hereticus. To effectively battle and exterminate chaos, some, especially those of the radical persuasion, believe that they must fully understand and tinker with its workings in order to fight it more effectively. However, such actions are either deemed heresy by Puritan Inquisitors or cause the Inquisitors themselves to fall victim to the corruption of chaos. Such individuals are named excommunicate traitores by their fellow Inquisitors, and as such will be hunted down and destroyed at the first opportunity, like all such enemies of the Emperor.